everyone. My name is Kristen Greek, and I'm the Sales and Marketing Coordinator at VAI. Welcome to our first Tips and Tricks webinar, where VAI presents the first topic on effective order entry. VAI S2K order entry application provides a wealth of capabilities for effective order processing. In this webinar, we will cover some of the advanced features in order entry, including how to link orders to campaigns and opportunities, as well as leveraging order guides to promote seasonal or dead stock items, the use of the vendor catalog file for non-stock items, and much more. Leading us today is VAI's Executive Vice President, Joe Ciacia. At the end of the webinar, we will open the floor for any questions you may have. In addition, I will provide my contact information if you would like to connect with a VAI representative directly. Also, for more information regarding upcoming events or for any more events in this series, visit the VAI website at www.vai.net/events. And with that, please join me in welcoming Joe Ciacia.
Thank you, Kristen, and welcome everyone to today's webinar. We have a lot to cover in a short amount of time, so I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly. The good news is that it will be recorded, and we will send you guys a copy of the recording so that if you want to slow it down or pause on a certain area, you can do that, and you can look to see, how the actual feature works in your release. So a lot of the features that I'm going to show here today should be in release 6.0, 6.1, and 6.2. Probably a majority. There is a couple of things that are just in 6.2, like the new complementary items, which I'll be showing. But most of you should have this if you're on release 6.0, 6.1, or 6.2. Some of these also may be on older releases as well. So if you're wondering if you have it, again, probably a good place to start with that is to ask your project director if you have that capability. Some of these can be retrofitted back to your older release if you want. So there's a lot of different ways you can, get access to these features. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing I want to show you is linking orders to a campaign. Every once in a while, you might run a campaign. Maybe it's an email blast or some type of promotional program, and you just want to know how well, how many orders you're getting from that campaign. So to do that, it's pretty simple. You'll go into CRM campaign and file maintenance, and you'll set up the campaign. And really, all this is here is just a description of the campaign. All right, you can put a budget amount in or actual cost, for reporting purposes, but really it's just a number and a description of the campaign. Okay, and then over in order entry, there's a field for it, right? So when you take the order, you might ask, how did he hear about us, or is this from a campaign? And you can search it and link the campaign to the order. Okay, so pretty straightforward. So this is the order, and you'll see that over in sales analysis, over in inquiry, there's a program called campaign analysis. And when you click on that, it'll show you how many orders you're getting for each campaign. So you can see here, that campaign now has one order at that value. Okay, so we track open orders as well as invoiced. All right, and then you can drill into it if you really want to see the individual orders individually. Okay, so here's the individual orders. Okay, so that's linking a campaign, an order to a campaign. Another thing you might want to do is link an order to an opportunity. Okay, so very similar. If you were using our CRM system, this is the S2K Enterprise Portal application. That is where our CRM system is. So when you use our CRM, this is just a listing of all the accounts. So a lot of people not familiar with CRM, it's very much like a Salesforce.com application or a HubSpot application. It's really great for the sales team for tracking prospects and customers. But one of the things you might want to do is when you're on the customer card or even on a prospect card, you might want to enter in a new opportunity. Okay, so you can enter it on the drop down on the top. Okay, and then again, like the campaign, this is just a description of what the opportunity is. Maybe you have a customer that has a new store opening, and he might be, potentially placing a lot of orders with you. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of tables that you can set up here, the source of this opportunity, the type, the stage, and this is all user defined. Okay, you can put in a total projected revenue, what you think you might get from this opportunity. But one of the nice things about the order entry screen is that just like the campaign, when you're entering an order or even a quote, it could be just a quote for this opportunity, you can link that quote or order to that opportunity in CRM. Okay, so when you start order entry and you do a search, you'll see there's that new store opening opportunity, and I can link it right there. And again, I'll be able to track, what orders or quotes I have tied to any particular opportunity. Okay, if you go back to CRM on the actual opportunity screen, it will show you right below it that you do have an order or quote attached to an opportunity. Okay, so when you're actually drilling into the opportunity, you can see right underneath it that, hey, you do have a quote out there already that's attached, and your sales reps can use this to follow up on quotes and convert them to orders. Okay, now one thing we don't do is when you actually, if it was a quote and you did get an order, we don't close out the opportunity automatically. So you do have to go back to the CRM and close the opportunity out if you're ready to close it out. Although we do see customers sometimes keep a job or opportunity open for the entire year and just track things that way. So those are some of the different capabilities we have. Okay, promotions window. All right, so over in custom pricing, let's just create some custom pricing for an item here. So I'm going to go into customer orders, file maintenance, go down to custom pricing, and we have a bunch of tables for setting up pricing, but two of them there, actually three of them, are for setting up promos. Promotional price by item, promotional price by division class, or promotional price by preferred vendor. Okay, the promotional price tables have an extra feature in order entry that during order entry you can say that you want to show the order entry taker any promos that are out there so that they can let the customer know. Okay, so as an example here, I'm just going to key in a promotional price for an item. So this is the item number. I can put a date range if I want, and if the date range is outside of the order range, it won't show it. Okay, so basically I'm going to do a quantity break here where I'm going to say if you order 1, it's $225. If you order 6, it's $255. Order 6, it's $225. Okay, just a simple promo. All right, so then what happens during order entry, and this is optional, you don't have to have this window pop up. You'll see in a couple of seconds that it's a flag in cross applications. But during order entry, if there's a promo out there, this window can pop up and say, hey, by the way, there are some current promos running right now. Again, based on the date. If the date is over, if the order date is past the end date, it won't show these. Okay? And right from this screen, if you want, the order entry person can actually, put the quantities in on this screen and say, oh, I want 1 or I want 6, and that will give them the discount. Okay, so this is the screen back in cross apps. If you want to know, if that's not popping up for you, back on the user defaults in cross applications. So cross applications, interfaces, user defaults, right? For each user, you have to say whether or not you want that promotions window to pop up automatically. Okay, so you can see for that user, I have display current promos turned on. Okay, so that is something nice that we have. All right, rapid order entry. So rapid order entry is a button that you'll see. Sometimes it's a button in the middle of the screen on some of the older releases. We moved it to the top, a little running man icon. But what rapid order entry is used for is if you get a lot of orders that are faxed in or emailed in, and your customers already know the item number and just send you a document with quantity and item number, it might be quicker and easier for your order entry people to use rapid order entry. So this is what it looks like. Okay. So you can see in rapid order entry, it's a very quick entry program. It's just quantity and item number. So if you had a fax come in and they were sending you, information like this, and you had to do a 100-line order, this might be a quicker way to enter that order. Right, so you just do quantity item, quantity item, quantity item, and when you hit enter, it'll validate that that's a good item. It'll also show you if any of those items are out of stock when you hit enter. Okay, so it's just a nice way to enter in a lot of line items. Okay. Sales history price checking. All right, let's take a look at this feature. So a lot of people know that we have a button on the order entry screen that says sales history. Okay. But it really works in two different ways. If you have an item already on the bottom of the screen, so you can see I entered this item, this electric stapler. If I already have the item on the bottom of the screen and I click sales history, it's going to show me every time that customer ever purchased that item, what invoice it was on, the quantity, and the price. Okay, so this can be very, very helpful if you have a customer that says, "Hey, I didn't pay $52, last time for that stapler." Right, so your order entry person can just hit that sales history button and quickly say, "Yes, you've paid $52, since 2019." Okay, so it's a real nice option. Now, I'm not sure if I show it. No, I don't. But if you were on this screen, okay, and there was no item on the bottom, then it would be a invoice by invoice screen that pops up to show you the last invoice. So that's also very helpful. So people just don't know that it works differently whether there's an item on the bottom or if there's no item on the bottom. So if there's no item on the bottom and you hit sales history, it's going to give you the most current invoice going back. So that would be helpful if a customer said, what did I order last time? You can really quickly, easily, use the sales history button to find what they ordered last time. Okay. All right. Order guides. This is a great, great tool, and we have a lot of customers using this in really creative ways. And I have a lot of slides here on this because I want to show you the many, many different ways that you can use order guides. Okay, so let's give you a couple examples. So first of all, where are order guides set up? So order guides are in customer orders and file maintenance, and there's a folder called order guides. Okay. And basically what you do here is you name the order guide, give it a name, right? Okay, so as an example, I'm going to create an order guide for holiday items, all right? Now, these items might be categorized different in the item division class file in S2K. So as an example, you might have green duct tape that's just in the green duct tape, category, but during the holidays, people might buy that a lot because it's of a holiday color, right? So you might want to create a holiday items guide, all right? So you hit enter here, and this is where you would enter in all the items that you want to show up in that order guide. Okay, we absolutely have done some things with customers to upload spreadsheets into this program. So work with your project director. It's not out of the box standard, but it's pretty easy and straightforward for us to build this table maybe through an Excel spreadsheet. All right, but nonetheless, you can add items here, and you can also give them categories that may be different than the categories that you have in the back office. So when they're seeing the guide, you might have it, broken down into, holiday furniture, holiday office supplies, holiday, and those categories might be different than the item categories. Or you can actually tell the system to use the back office category as well. Okay, so you enter the items here, and again, I didn't do any of these in this demo. I put a couple in just to give you an example. All right. And then what happens is during order entry, you're going to see that guide. Before I do that, let me show you a couple of other nice things that people are using order guides for. So here was a real nice idea that one of my customers actually showed me. He is in the food business, and he has what they call critical items. All right, that every single time a customer places an order, they really should make sure that they have, and I'll just use something silly, they should make sure they have bread, milk, and and water on their order. Okay, so these are critical items that are very, very common. Maybe they're your best sellers or whatever it may be. And then what they'll do during order entry, and you'll see this in a minute, is at the end of the order, they'll press the guide and they'll see if the customer's missing any critical items. Okay, and I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so this is another thing. I just created a couple of critical items here. All right. So here was another use for order guide that I really liked, right? this is a electrical panel component. So I had an electrical distributor, and he said that, he had new employees, new customer service people, and they weren't really, up on every component that is needed for an electrical box, right? So what he did was he created a guide called Electrical Panel Components. And very similar to the one I just talked about is that when the order is, done, and the customer asks, do I have everything I need? He'll check the guide and he'll say, hey, no, you forgot the PVC pipe, or you forgot the fuses, or whatever it may be. So there's a lot of good ways to use this for doing that kind of stuff. Now, I've also seen guides for different types of businesses. Right? So let's say, and I'll go back to food for an example. Let's say you're a food customer and you sell to convenience stores, right? They may not carry the full line of items that you offer to maybe restaurants or hotels or whatever, right? So I've seen customers create guides for convenience store items, or guides for restaurant items, right? Or guides for a typical type of product, like kosher items only. Right? So that if a customer asks, what do you have, for kosher? Okay? So there's a lot of great uses for order guides. So let's take a look at how you can invoke an order guide. Okay? You can invoke an order guide anytime. You can already have items on the order and then say, oh, I want to check an order guide, or you can actually order right off of the order guide. So it's up to you how you want to use it. So when you click on order guide, it's going to ask you for what guide you want to check on the top. All right, so I'm going to grab the holiday items. All right, and then you can see that I didn't have any of these items on the order. Okay, so I'm just going to add them right here. Okay, some of the things I like about the order guide is if they have purchased in the past, you will show them last quantity and last price they paid, as well as the current unit price. Okay. All right, so those items are now on the order. All right, let's look at another guide. Let's look at that critical item guide. Now, what you'll notice here is when I brought the critical item guide up, if the item was already on the order, it's showing me that here. Okay, so let's say this was a list of critical items and the guy said, hey, did I order it? Do I have everything I need? You could say, well, yes, you have the HP inkjet black and you have the construction paper, but you don't have these other items. Okay, so the items that are on the order, when you go into the order guide, will automatically carry over here to show you that you already have it on order. Okay, so you can see that would be also helpful with that electrical panel, right? So the guy's trying to build an electrical panel, he can build it and then he can double check it to say, do I have everything I need? Okay, one other thing you can do with order guides is in the customer master file, you can have a default order guide for the customer. So this might be something like I mentioned before. If this customer happened to be a certain restaurant, a convenience store, or a hotel chain, or a hospital, you can build that guide. And one of the features you'll see there is that you can restrict the customer to only being able to order stuff on that guide. So as you probably know, we have a table for item restrictions. And some of our customers use that to say a customer is not allowed to be, to buy these certain items. Okay? This is just another way to do it where you can create an order guide and say, hey, this customer can only buy products off of this order guide. Okay? As I mentioned before, maybe you have a customer that can only purchase kosher items. Right? So you might want to create an order guide for kosher and then say restrict them that they only can buy if it's on that guide. Okay, so again, a lot of nice uses for order guides. All right, let's talk about complementary. So complementary exists in our older releases, right? So basically the way complementary items work is if you buy product X, you might want to recommend them buying product Y. Okay. Now, in our older releases, it was a two-way street. So if you bought Y, it would recommend X, and some customers didn't necessarily like that. So in our newer releases, in 6.0, 6.1, 6.2, we do it now by like the item number, where you could say that this item is recommended when they buy this item. It's not what we used to call it a link, where they would show both ways. So now it's really set up by the individual items. When I buy the HP laser printer, I want to recommend this ribbon. Now, here's the new feature. The new feature is we added a code that says, well, what type of complimentary is this? Is it mandatory? Is it a suggested item? Or is it optional? Okay, and let me tell you the difference between the three. So mandatory complimentary item, if you ordered the first item, so if I ordered this printer, this item is automatically being added to the order. Okay, so there's no, it's not optional. All right, so in contracting, maybe you sell something that has like a cover or a cap or something that has to go with it, and you want to flag it as a mandatory item, so you would do that. Okay, suggested is I'm going to suggest you to buy this item, but it's not mandatory, meaning that I will suggest a quantity to buy based on how many of the other item you bought. Okay, so kind of like mandatory, whereas for every quantity of one here, I'm going to sell one quantity of the ribbon here. The suggestion will also do that math, but it's not mandatory. Okay, optional is basically the way complimentary works today, right? Which means I'm going to show you the item. I'm not even going to suggest a quantity, and you would just have to key in a quantity that you want of the other item. There's no direct correlation where if you bought one of this, you have to buy one of that. It's two different things. Okay, so let's see how that works. I'll do one mandatory, one optional. Okay. So here I am back on order entry, and as you can see, I'm ordering the laser printer, and right away, the first item comes up and says, well, you order the laser printer, you can't change it, you have to get the ribbon. All right, the paper is optional. And because it's optional, I can enter in a quantity in that field, or I can choose not to. Okay? So you see that the ribbon automatically got added to the order. Okay? All right, non-stock, special orders. Again, a lot of customers know how this works, but there's a couple of capabilities I want to go through it here that you may or may not know about. Okay, so here I am on the order, and I'm taking my line items, and a customer wants to order a product, and I'm not sure we carry it. All right, so I do an item search, and I don't see it. All right, so one of the things that customers sometimes do is they create non-stock item just categories. All right, and they give it a code, and then they just type over the description to enter in what the non-stock item is. Right, the benefit of that is you can actually, when you're looking at sales, you would get a better picture by product division and class. Now, in this demo, I didn't do different divisions and classes, but you'd have a nice sales analysis to say, well, this is how much colored scissors I sell non-stock, but I wouldn't get the sales down to the actual SKU. Okay, so as an example, let's do that way first. So I just said it's a hanger. I'm going to type it over here. I'm going to enter in a price and a cost, and I'm going to say create PO. Okay. All right. So that's one way to enter a non-stock. The other way to enter a non-stock is on the CD code here. So the CD button right here, I have already pressed the search on there, and you can see one of the options is to add a non-stock on the fly, right? Where I don't want to do it by the category, I want to do it down to an individual SKU. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to create a SKU. The system will generate one for you, although you can override it. All right, and then what you get here is on that item, you're going to get sales down to the individual SKU. So you would know, oh, if I sell enough of this, right, I may want to start to carry it. Okay, so those are two ways to do non-stocks. All right, non-stock by category, non-stock by SKU. The third way is to pull in a listing from the vendor master file. So, let me just show you this real quick. So people ask, what do I do after I created those special orders? What do I do? And you would go to purchasing and you would go to list create POs from open orders, and those would actually create the POs for you. Okay. All right. So there's the PO that was created. And you'll see that it's linked to that customer order. So when it comes in, it's linked to that customer order. Okay. All right. So this is the third way that I wanted to show you that not a lot of people know about. Okay. Over in purchasing, we have a file called the vendor item catalog file. All right. And basically what this is you can upload, there's an upload option here for you where you can import an Excel spreadsheet. You can import a vendor's catalog and have all of their items in this catalog, but they're not in your item master file. Okay, so as an example, I may sell a lot of IBM ThinkPads, a lot of laptops, right? And but I don't sell them all, right? So IBM has a bunch of different models, shapes, sizes. So what I can do is I can import that vendor's catalog into this feature, into this file, right? And then during my order entry, when I do the search, I'm trying to find something, I can then press the catalog button here. And I can try to find it in the vendor's catalog. And when I do find it, I could say, bring it back to my order and create a non-stock. All right, so why is this a nice feature? Well, what it does is it makes sure that you got the right description, the right vendor's manufacturing number, the right price, the right cost, whatever it may be. Okay, because you've uploaded it from your vendor file. All right, so that's a nice way, and then you can track the sales, a lot more effectively. Okay. All right, so let's keep going. Future orders and standing orders. All right, so future orders. Okay, how this can be used as a blanket, or it can be used truly as a customer wants to place an order for a future period in time. All right, so it really could be used for either one of those. And let's see how that would work. So when you're entering a future order, you are required to put in a PO number, which could reference like a blanket PO, right? And you have the ability to enter in the requested ship date. When do you want this product shipped, right? Now, if you were doing this as a blanket, you would put maybe all nines in there, 9999. I don't know when it's going to be shipped. The customer's going to call me, and I'm going to release off of this future order, okay? If this was a true future order, you might want to put in a ship date, okay? We also have an option you'll see soon for multiple ship dates on an item, so let's see that as well. Okay, so I hit enter, and you can see the order entry looks very similar to our regular order entry, right? Same pricing tables, everything comes in, okay? Now, as I mentioned, if this wasn't a blanket and the customer just, did want this 1,000 cases of paper shipped on multiple dates, you could use this ship dates and put in the dates of when the customer wants these to be shipped. And then what S2K will do is at the end of each day, it'll check this file, right? And there is an option in our system, days to commit future orders. Maybe it's 1 day before, 2 days before, 7 days before. There's also an option to make the days to commit equal to the vendor's lead time, right? But what you could do is the system will check this file and say, hey, it's December 1st, this guy wants this shipped out. We got to, move it from future and move it into a real order. Okay? So the future quantities here can be used in suggested purchasing. And that's the real benefit of entering in these blankets, is that when your purchaser is looking at demand, one of the things you can say in the suggested purchasing system is also include future orders that go out for 30, 60, 90 days. And it will use these quantities as demand for your purchasing requirements. Okay, so that's how it would look. So it keeps it individually, right? And then it will release each one of these items at the time of the ship date. Okay. All right, so and now I'm just showing you at the end. If the customer wanted a copy of it, you can email it over to them. But let's go over to order entry now and see how I could use that future order as a blanket, right? So now I have a future order out there that's a blanket. All right, so I click on the future order button, and here's that customer's blanket. And when I click on it, it's going to show me. Now I have dates in there, but it may be just one quantity. And what you can do here is you could say, all right, he wants to release out of the 1,000, he wants to release 100. Okay, so when I do that, you'll notice that the remaining quantity is automatically updated on how much he has left on that blanket at that price. Okay, so it added that item to the order, and it also updated the future order that says you have 900 left on that blanket. Okay, and there's a lot of nice reports. You could see, future orders that are nearing expiration. Excuse me. Okay. All right. So there's another option we have, and that's called standing orders. Okay, so how may you use standing orders? Well, standing orders is just a way to save an order. So its initial idea was just to put, if a customer ordered the same thing over and over and he didn't want to type it in, you can put it into standing order, and then you can save it and then just keep using it, right? Over and over and over again. And you can pick specific line items or the whole order, kind of just like a notepad. But I think it was release 6.1, we had a lot of customers say that they didn't want to lose a quote when they entered in a quote. The way S2K works today, through order entry, is if you enter in a quote, right? So if you're in order entry and you enter in a quote with the order type of quote, when you convert this quote to an order, you lose the quote, right? The quote goes away, right? And now it's an order. Right. So we had a lot of customers say to us, hey, Joe, the guy might not want everything that's on the quote. Maybe he wants one or two things. And I'd like a way to save the quote for either future reference or just give me the ability to save the quote. All right. So in release, I think it was 6.1 or 6.2, we added a feature after you enter in the quote. So these are your line items, and you go to the end. There's a button, the new button there that says create standing order. Okay, now I know it's a little misleading because it says order and it's really a quote, but really what it is the ability now for you to take that quote and move it over there, right? And create a standing order from that quote so that you'll always have a copy of that quote. All right? And then you'll see over here, there it is. In standing orders, that quote is now in the system. All right, so real nice way to keep track of quotes. And now I don't know, you could actually use analytics to do some reporting on how many of these items off the quote became orders. So if you wanted to do like conversion rates or something like that, you'd have to use analytics for it. But that's a nice feature for people who don't want to lose the quote detail after you create the order. Okay. All right. So, and you'll notice that, let's say I copied it over. So now from order entry, I can always access it. There's a button. Let me back up here. There's a button for standing orders. And if I click on it, I can see all these standing orders that are out there. And I can say move the full order over or individual line items, and then I can modify the line items as I need, as need fit. Okay. All right. I think this is the last one, return processing. All right, let's take a look at return processing. Again, a lot of you may know how returns work. So VAI has a built-in return authorization system. All right, so you can authorize a return. So customer calls, says, I'd like to return this item. You can do your due diligence and say, yes, it's okay. I will send you an RA. All right, and then there's some fields here. You'll notice when you're doing a return, the system may prompt you for a reason, a cause, or a person that's approving it. Okay. And then one of the nice things that you can do, and this is tying in something you saw earlier, is if they want to return something, to ensure that you're giving them the right credit, right, for the item, we recommend that you hit that sales history button and say, what item are you trying to return? Because right next to the location is the item number, so they can key in the item number here, right? And it will find that item and what invoice it was on, and say, okay, I want to, he wants to out of the two, I want to maybe return one. All right. And now what this does when you do it this way is two things. Okay. And I don't want to reprice it. I want to give him his current price, the old price. What it does is two things. It adds the item to the return, but it also degregates in the sales history the quantity that's available to return. Okay, so let's say a customer got a really a high price and a low price on the same item. He may want to try to get credit all the time against his high priced item, right? And when you really only had a certain quantity of items that he bought at that price, and the other ones it was steeply discounted. So this really protects you there. Right, so as you return an item that's attached here, it'll reduce the quantity. And if I try to go over this quantity, let's say I try to return 6 of these, it'll say, no, you don't have any more at that price to return. Okay, and it also attaches that order and invoice to that line item, which is nice. And you can have multiple items from different invoices on the same return authorization. Okay, some of the other things you can do, which is nice. So again, in 6.0 and higher, we added a button called additional charges. All right, additional charges allows you to add a dollar amount, if you want, for any type of fee that you set up. Okay, so people use additional charges for a lot of different things. Fuel surcharges, stocking fees. A rush order is going to add something, right? But you can see that the number can be a positive or a negative. So if I say, well, there's a 20-cent restocking fee, right? I could take away from the original credit that was supposed to be 92. Okay. And by the way, where those are set up is in interfaces, cross apps interfaces, in customer orders. There's a button here for additional charges. Let me just see where it was on the screen here. Additional charges. Here it is, charges. Okay. So you can see you could just create any charges you want, tie it to a GL number. You could say whether or not it's available on order entry or a credit or return or a quote. This is service billing. This is rental billing. Okay. But some people don't want to use dollar amounts. Right? So sometimes they say, well, dollar amounts are not good. I want to do a percentage. So one way to do a percentage discount, like if you wanted to do a 10% restocking fee, is on the RA, on the header screen, put in a 10% discount. Right? And basically what you're getting there is a percentage of the total return. right? So instead of being $92, they'll take 9 off and the return will be. So really just 2 ways to put in additional charges onto a return. Okay. Oh, all right. We had one more, credit and rebill. All right. So credit and rebill, I think, is on 6.1 and 6.2. And what credit and rebill is if you ever send an invoice out to a customer and then you realize you had a price error, right? You sent them a product X, and it was $1.99, and it was supposed to be, $1.59, right? So rather than bring that item into stock, return it, send it back out, you can just do a credit and rebill, right? Which will do a price correction but not affect inventory. Okay, so the reason is going to be price correction, right? And what you do here on the credit and rebill is you find the original order that it's on. You do a search there, okay? You find the order, and then you find the item. And you say, okay, of the 10 items here at $16, how much was erroneously priced? So I'm basically going to say the whole 10 was erroneously priced. All right, so when I hit enter, the system will say, okay, what was the right price? Right, what was the right price supposed to be? Right, and you would do that. You would put in what it is. And then you can see up here, it basically backs out the original price item and then recharges them for the correct price. All right, so that's a credit and rebill feature that's in 6.2 definitely, and might be in 6.1 as well. Okay, and how that shows up in AR, if you look at this customer AR, you'll see that the credit, it nets it out basically, right? It nets out the difference between the original price and what the erroneous, what the new price should have been, and it shows it on their account as the net difference, right? So the original bill doesn't go away, but we credit and rebill it so that the sales analysis would be correct on this item, because we would show a minus and then a plus. All right, so that's how it looks in AR. Okay, so those are some of the tips and tricks that we offer within order entry. There are a lot of new features that we didn't get a chance to cover. One of them is BOGOs, buy one, get one free. In release 6.2, we have a new promotional table that you can set up what we call a BOGO, where you can offer, if you buy X, you can get Y. And it doesn't even have to be the same item. You could say you can get, a t-shirt or some maybe vendor promotion or something that's being offered, right? So that's a new feature that I didn't have time to put in this presentation, but BOGOs is a nice new promotional table that's offered in release 6.2.